All right, Stuck. As I mentioned, not our greatest week. We came in last week tied, and now I'm ahead by 1 point. So nothing much went according to plan. You start us off first. Where are you going with your first pick of the Week 13 Sunday six pack?
Yeah, still really good year going for the pod. We were, I think, due to have one of those weeks. It was a tough Sunday, right? You had a limited slate. This one isn't I don't think a great Sunday slate either, with all of the favorites on the board, but let's close strong as we normally do. And for my first pick of the Week 13 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5 at BetMGM. And look, I stayed away from the Steelers. I know you liked them last week. I had a bad feeling about them, but they ended up getting blown out by the Bengals. And look, guess what? Guess who also got blown out by the Bengals earlier this year? The Ravens as well. This is my team. They haven't let us down in the six pack in 2 years. So I'm hoping that's why I want to lead off with this game to start. And the Ravens haven't been playing good football. I mean, they won that game last week because Baker Mayfield was hurt and Justin Tucker is a god, basically. I mean, Lamar threw 4 picks, but I mean, just go back their past couple games before then. I mean, they losing to the Dolphins on Thursday night. They barely beat the Vikings, had to come all the way back. I mean, it's not been pretty at all. You get blown out by the Bengals at home. This is a team that's just not playing really well. A lot of it's due to injuries and the defense is, the secondary is not playing well. But I think this is just a good spot to buy low on the Steelers. I know TJ Watt's probably out. I know Freiermuth, their star rookie tight end, is probably out. But this is Ravens Steelers. And this game, you can almost always throw out the records, and it's always going to be close. I mean, listen to some of this. If you look back in the series, since John Harbaugh got to Baltimore in 2008, the Ravens are 13-13 in the regular season. So the teams have split. Average margin 1. 20 of the 26 decided by one possession. 17 of the 26 decided by 4 or less. 4 have gone to overtime. Here's the craziest thing in this series. Favorites, when either one of these teams is favored by 3 or more since 2008, the favorite has gone 1, 13, and 2 against the spread since 2008. 1, 13, and 2 when you're favored by more than 3. I mean, more times than not, this game is going to finish by a field goal margin. And look, Hayden should be back for Pittsburgh. I'm assuming Steelers, by the way, are 0-8 without Hayden since he arrived there. And I know the run defense hasn't been great. They're allowing 4.8 yards per carry, which is a franchise high through 11 games. But I expect just a great effort here from Pitt in a must-win. They're 5-5. It's a rah-rah spot against their rival and a team they always just play up or down to. Same with the Ravens. We can go through all the Tomlin numbers: 35-16, 35-16-2 against the spread as a dog from week 3 on, 29-8-1 against the spread as an underdog versus an opponent with an equal or better winning percentage, 12-3-2 against the spread as a home dog. It's 80%, covering by over 6 points per game. And then, also you have Pittsburgh, who just laid an egg last week. Teams failing to cover by 28 or more points the previous week are 120, 75, and 6 against the spread since 2003 per Action Labs. That's over 61%. Lamar Jackson, who he's still a little sick, but he hasn't played well against the Steelers either. He's started 2 games against them, played in 4. He has 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. It's his lowest quarterback rating against any other team in the NFL, and has only averaged barely over 4 yards per carry with 5 fumbles and 39 carries. So I think that this is just an overreaction to what we saw last week. The Ravens shouldn't have been upgraded. I downgraded the Ravens for last week's effort. And, I think that this is an overreaction to Watt and Freiermuth being out. This is the Steelers' season at home against their rival in a classic rah-rah spot, coming off a blowout loss. Ravens a little fat and happy in the 1 seed, but they're just not playing great football. This is a team that's 6-0 in one possession games since week 1. They're the 3rd team since 1985 to have 5 fourth quarter comebacks in their first 10 games. So, they've been getting quite fortunate a lot of second half comebacks. So I think that there's some value in this line that probably should be a field goal, as most matchups as most games when the Steelers and Ravens play should be. So give me the Steelers plus 4.5. I'm waiting to see if this is going to tick even higher to 5, 5.5, 6 before I pull the trigger. But let's go with 4.5. If it starts to, if there's signs of it trickling down, then I'll lock in plus 4.5 on the app. But let's go with plus 4.5 at BetMGM with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, no one's going to want to bet Pittsburgh coming off what happened last week. I think they were still the right play last week. Even they've been the right play most of the year. They're going to be when they're underdog. They're going to be when they're in these kind of spots. They're not as bad as they showed last week. Obviously, they're not as good as they used to be, but this is still a team. What are they? 5-5-1. Like the sky isn't completely falling. They're just inconsistent, and they have an old quarterback, and they're not great at protecting. But yeah, the Ravens are having their issues as well. It's in Pittsburgh, which helps, a lot. I think, you get the terrible towels, you get some added hype, especially what you're going to need that with TJ Watt not being around. And yeah, the Ravens, I mean, I don't know. The Ravens are like, they kind of remind me of the old Seahawks. It's like every game is close. They pull something out of the hat at the end. But sometimes, the run pass ratio is weird sometimes, but yeah, they can't keep winning these one-score games, and I agree. I think, you're not even just getting the 3, you're getting the hook at the 4 as well. So, it could be one of those, 27-23 type situations you still cover here. So I like the pick. For my first pick and the second overall pick of the week, 13 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the G-Men plus 4 at the Miami Dolphins. And this line...
Strain neck or the neck?
Listen, that's what I want to get to. I mean, first of all, this line has actually ballooned to 5 at some spots. Now it's kind of sitting at 4 as we record this because Jones is practicing with the strained neck. He hasn't been ruled out. I kind of hope he is ruled out so we get a better number, because like going from Daniel Jones to Mike Glennon is like so. Like, it's not like Daniel Jones has been very good this year, and it's not like they're consistently using his running ability to where you can say, okay, Daniel Jones, he's got the running ability. That's what's kind of keeping the Giants in these things. No, they're not really calling runs. They're not really, using him a ton in that capacity. And so he hasn't been good as a passer. He's 25th in DVOA. So you just look at these two teams, and Miami kind of surging here. I think it's a good time to fade them. You look at a team that's 500 or below, which Miami is. They're still not back to 500, coming off a blowout win of 16 or more points, just 18-29 against the spread the next week, 38%. You look at overall DVOA, the Giants are the better team. They're 23rd. Miami is 26th, even with this winning streak. And then this is a Giants spot. Joe Judge, 9-4 against the spread on the road, 6-8 at home. So Giants going on the road here. Not one of those teams that you worry about covering a number, especially more than a field goal. And then everyone's going to look at the Giants and say, okay, it's just 2 bad teams. And it is 2 bad teams record-wise. I think both are maybe a little better than their records, or at least playing a little better. But you look at the Giants' last 4 losses: Dallas, Rams, Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Before that, they lost to the Falcons by 3 points, which means if you have a 4-point spread, you cover. And they lost to Washington by 1 point, which means if you have a 4-point spread, you cover. In that span, they also beat New Orleans as an underdog, Carolina as an underdog, Vegas as an underdog, Philly as an underdog. So I think anyone would argue that Miami fits into the bucket of teams like either New Orleans, Carolina, Vegas, or Philly if you're bullish on Miami, which the Giants beat as dogs, or at worst, if you're bearish, a team like Atlanta, who the Giants still only lost by 3-2. They're definitely not a Dallas, a Rams, a Chiefs, or a Bucks. So I just think this number is too high. I think, it's very possible that maybe the immediate outcome is Miami wins by a field goal, but I think the Giants have a good chance to pull the upset here. I don't think Miami's offense is sustainable with Tua Tagovailoa going 26 of 29 every game. I still don't think they can run the football. I think Patrick Graham on defense, there's a lot of familiarity there with Brian Flores. I just think that it's going to be a really tight game between 2 coaches who know each other. And the Giants have a good shot at pulling off the victory. And that there's no real downgrade in this matchup from Daniel Jones to Mike Glennon, especially, I think, Glennon, with them kind of knowing the possibility of Glennon starting early in the week, it's better than if it was like a COVID thing on Saturday. So give me the Giants +4 and keep eyeing the Jones news because you might get a 5 or even a 5.5, 6 if he's ruled out.
Yeah, I actually do have a play in this game. Nothing on the side, but I played the first half under here, under 20.5. The Dolphins are playing good football. They've won 4 in a row, and after the Giants, they have the Jets. I mean, they could be winners of 6 in a row very easily. And since week 7, when Tua returned from injury, he's number 1 in completion percentage over expectation plus EPA composite of any quarterback in the NFL, and their defense is 4th in EPA per play. The defense is healthier, playing really well. Mike Glennon at quarterback, well, I agree it's not a huge downgrade to passing wise. He doesn't have mobility that Jones has, and that could hurt here because I expect the Dolphins to go heavy blitz, man up on the outside. The Giants are still banged up on the outside. As you mentioned, there's familiarity with both coaching staffs, and the Giants defense is underrated. They're playing really well. They're 5th in EPA per play since week 7 over that same span. They're 31st in run D, not a great run D, but they're 7th in pass D. Well, DVOA for the season. So if you look in the season, Giants 31st in run D, DVOA 7th in pass D. That's adjusted for opponent. Well, the Miami rush offense is a bottom 3 unit. And the Giants rush offense is a bottom 5 unit. So neither of these teams can run the ball to take advantage of the weakness of the other's defense. And I think that this is going to be low-scoring rock fight in the first half. By the way, Xavier McKinney, he's turning into a really good player at safety. And coming in for Peppers, who was hurt. And then, Logan Ryan is back. It looks like Adoree Jackson will be good to go. So, like, some of their depth players are starting to play well, like Love. And so this secondary is very underrated. And we always say that Graham is very underrated as a defensive coordinator. This Giants defense next year has the potential to be very good. All of these younger pieces are getting better. Their secondary looks good. Their interior defensive line is good. All they need to do is either go out and sign or draft. Like, they need an elite edge rusher. Once this defense has that, or 2, if you get 2 really good edge play, that's it. And then this defense has the potential to be really, really good. So I don't necessarily disagree with you on the side. I do think that Jones's mobility actually would help in this matchup. But I personally went with first half under. I think this will be ugly early on.
Yeah, I mean, I in theory that makes sense, Daniel Jones' mobility. But if you've watched Daniel Jones, I mean, if he's reacting to a blitz and a pass rush, like, his mobility, he usually just uses it to make bad decisions. Like, I'd rather just have a veteran quarterback like Glennon in there that just knows how, just get rid of the ball. Like, he knows he ain't running nowhere. But this, again, it could go either way. I just think the number's too high. I think there should be a field goal spread at worst. Either way, I make it under 3, regardless of who starts at quarterback. So I just think the number's getting away from us. And as you mentioned, it should be a rock fight. It should be a low scoring game, which makes it even harder for a favorite to get separation.
Yeah. All right. For my second pick in the 3rd overall, the Week 13 NFL Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Denver Broncos +10 for this contest. It doesn't matter. +9.5, but make sure you buy the 10. I bought the 10 at -115. And obviously an important number to get. And I think you can find cheap enough 10s out there. But I think this is too many points for the Broncos. I know that Denver's lost 11 in a row against Kansas City. 11 in a row. I went back and looked. I was like, I know Kansas City's dominated this division. And I was thinking, when's the last time Denver beat them? And then I went and looked, and I was like, all the way back to 2016, last time they beat them. And Andy Reid is off of a bye. He's been very strong off of a bye, but I still think this is way too many points. The Broncos should have their tackles back. Their offense is actually playing pretty well. 12th in pass DVOA, 13th in run DVOA, and they've dealt with a bunch of injuries, like receiver, offensive line, across the board. So when you factor that in, I mean, their offense is playing really well. Teddy Bridgewater, by the way, 2nd in the NFL in the season in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. He's trailing only Kyler Murray. I mean, he's playing outstanding football. we could go into the Bridgewater stats here as well. 26-9 against the spread as an underdog, 74.3%. 20-5 as a road dog, 80%. Road dog of over a field goal, 15-2 against the spread, 88.2%. The Chiefs' defense is better because they got healthier. They got a couple pieces back. They moved some pieces around, but it's still not a great unit. We talked about this the last couple weeks. I took them against the Cowboys because I said, all right, this defense now can be like the 20th best in the NFL, not dead last. And that's where they are now. So you could still move the ball on them. And I think the Broncos can. The Broncos defense also, like in their front, their secondary is great. They have a lot of great players and they're just well-schooled, especially at safety. So they can play this too deep that's given the Chiefs issues. And they had a lot of, they lost Von Miller. They've had a lot of injuries up front in their front seven. They did get Chubb back, but they also had the bye week for Vic Fangio to kind of get this defense in order. And they looked really good last week against a good Chargers offense, against a great Chargers offense that rates out elite. And so I think that they can carry that over. And then scheme-wise, they can play. They have two really good safeties. They can play their safeties deep, take away the explosive play, and then hold Kansas City to field goals in the red zone. That's essentially, I think, the formula here. And by the way, the Broncos' red zone defense, top 10 in the league this year. 2019, red zone touchdown percentage, led the league. 2020, red zone touchdown percentage, led the league. It's not a fluke. They're the first team in NFL history since the stat was tracked to lead the league in red zone defense in back-to-back years. So I think that they can hold the Chiefs to field goals, make them work to get up the field. The Chiefs they're getting better at doing that, but they're still figuring that out. And it's the Chiefs as the large favorite. Defense isn't great. Their offense is still working out some kinks. Chiefs are 7-15 as a favorite over the past two seasons, just under 32%. Including the postseason, they're 2-13 against the spread as a favorite of over a field goal since the midpoint of last year. And how about 0-8 against the spread as a touchdown favorite or more over that span? They're 0 for their last 8. Home divisional favorites, by the way, laying more than 7 points since 2003, 87, 112, and 8 against the spread. That's like 43.7%. I think this is too many points. Broncos are right in this race. Defense is playing better after that bye. I think, and their offense is, I think, an underrated unit. And Bridgewater's playing well enough to get another road cover here. So give me the Broncos against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I like this.
Oh, and you got the Denver on. You got the Denver on.
I got the gear on. I got the John Elway. What is this? The 94 throwback. I love these 94 throwbacks with those 75th patch. But yeah, I like Denver here. I'll have a write-up on this game later in the week, so check out actionnetwork.com or the app for that. But I agree. I think the one thing that's going to scare your average better away is it's Andy Reid coming off a bye, and he has been good. He's 16-11, 59% against the spread. But that's 59%. You can look at a trend for Denver, like Teddy Bridgewater on the road, 24-5, 83%. 83 is better than 59. So there's a lot of things, on both sides here. But I agree. I just think Denver is the matchup that gives the Chiefs trouble. And this was George Patton's doing a great job, right? That's the reason Denver's managed to, kind of mitigate these injuries here. Their roster's a lot deeper. Remember last year when they got hurt on defense and it was just disastrous week in and week out for them. This year, they have enough depth. They've withstood, the two inside linebacker injuries. They've withstood trading Von Miller. They've withstood some injuries at cornerback. But philosophically, they were built to beat the Chiefs. They play that two deep safety. That's Fangio's defense. They run the ball, which they have two running backs so they can sustain their run game all game. They have a quarterback who's not going to turn it over in Teddy Bridgewater, and they can stop you on defense in the red zone. They're literally set up perfectly to beat the Chiefs. So don't disagree. I'll almost in all certainty be writing this pickup for our Sunday Night Football breakdown. All right. For my second pick and the fourth overall pick of the Week 13 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers +3 at the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is a matchup of two teams that on paper, and again, the Chargers are actually a little better. If you go by DVOA, which is schedule adjusted, they are 16th. The Bengals are 18th. The Bengals have had one of the easiest schedules in the league. and that has kind of inflated their numbers. Their offense still, it played well against Pittsburgh, but overall, it hasn't been quite as consistent. It's been turnover prone at times. So this is a game the Chargers can absolutely beat Cincinnati, and the Chargers are going to be hungry now. Like, we've faded the Chargers these last over a month now, because we talked about it. Third down, couldn't sustain that efficiency. Herbert was just bailing them out. But now's, I think, a good time to buy low, because now the Chargers have kind of come back down to earth. And now they're starving for a win. They're coming up against the Bengals team, which is just coming off of a big blowout. And you look at Justin Herbert, he has the weapons: Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. So the run defense, could be getting Linval Joseph back. If they have Joseph and Jones, they will be better. They were better. So that's a big deal. But overall, I just think this is a good spot to buy low on the Chargers. I'm not worried about the West traveling East. In the conference since 2011, 58, 41, and 2 are the West Coast teams traveling East, 59% against the spread. And listen, this Bengals team, it's a decent team. It's Joe Burrow's great, but Justin Herbert is also great. I think the Chargers, it's just an evenly matched game. The Chargers don't normally have a home field advantage, so it's not like you're knocking them down a ton. And it's interesting because, as much as we've kind of harped on the inconsistency of their offense, they still rank second in DVOA on offense. And that's what's kind of given them the better overall DVOA ranking here. So this is what you need to do against Cincinnati at this point. Cincinnati, when they're not turning the ball over, they're going to score points. They have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins playing well, you have Joe Mixon. So you have 3 legit guys that can kind of be centerpieces for an offense. So you need a team that has a guy like Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and Mike Williams and Justin Herbert to kind of balance that out. So, maybe I shouldn't have bet against Cincinnati with Pittsburgh last week. I still thought it was the right spot, but not going to be scared off of going against them this week in what I think is a letdown spot for them, and a kind of a bounce back spot here for a hungry Chargers team that just needs to get right back on track.
Yeah, the Chargers their run D is really bad. And I talked about this before the year about how I don't think that this roster fits what Staley wants to do defensively. And it's just not a great fit. And then the secondary has been banged up as well. That doesn't help matters. Asante Samuel Jr., who's probably their best cover guy right now, he had a second concussion. He remains questionable. That's something to watch here. And the offense, it grades out great, but there's just something that seems to be off. I don't know if it's the play calling with Lombardi. I think might be just also getting a bit unlucky. It's really tough to figure out what exactly is going on at times with their offense. But both teams are grading out right around league average. I have them rated similarly this year. They're both I think around 5.8 estimated wins on the season.
Yep.
And if you're going to bet this game, I think I would take the field goal or not. Matt Filer, their left guard, has been great all year, paired with Slater at left tackle. He was out last week and it was a disaster. His backup came in and was one of the worst performances at left guard we've seen all year. He was limited in practice. So if he's back and Samuel's back, it should serve them well. The Bengals are still, they have these great efforts. They blow out the Ravens. They blow out the Steelers, but they also have some stinkers, right? They lose at the Jets. They need a miracle to come back and beat the Jags at home. So it's still a really inconsistent team on a week in and week out basis. I think that this is a decent spot to buy the Chargers in a matchup of two teams that are fairly similar. And the Cincy home field isn't worth 3 points here. So
and one more note on that: the Bengals, I'm looking at the numbers now. They've played an average schedule that's 4 points below league average in terms of point differential. That is tops in the NFL. So by just straight up point differential, they played the NFL's easiest schedule. The Chargers are on the other side, 1.3 points higher. That's fourth in the AFC and top 10 in the NFL. So that's something that I think is kind of skewing these teams, and why we're saying, okay, both of them are kind of similar, even though the Bengals, admittedly, if you just eye testing lately, have looked like the better team.
Yep. All right, for my third pick and the fifth overall in the Week 13 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings -7 at the Detroit Lions. I don't really love a third pick this week. My favorite pick of the week is the Bills. I'll have a write-up for that game on Monday night. But this was my next biggest edge. And when I account for the matchup, look, the Lions are still fighting, but they're just awful. They're horrible. I feel bad for Dan Campbell, who's, by the way, calling plays, and that's a bad move. I mean, we saw how that worked out against the Bears. It just draw play, third and long run. He said they weren't going to play scared. Well, they did. I mean, it's just embarrassing for a team that is winless. And he's going to maintain play calling duties instead of Anthony Lynn. I think that's a mistake and hurts. And by the way, like, Goff is awful. He's playing awful. He doesn't have many receiving options. The best player on that offense that just can make things happen is DeAndre Swift, right? He can hit some explosive plays, not only in the backfield, but in the passing game as well. I think he leads the NFL in receptions of all running backs this year. Could be mistaken, but he's up there. And he's most likely going to be out this week. I think that hurts their offense. The Vikings defense is dealing with some injuries here, but they should shut down this just abysmal offense led by Jared Goff. And by the way, this is a divisional game. Minnesota's familiar here. I can't imagine after that Thanksgiving loss, you're going to get much of a crowd. Conditions are great indoors. The home field advantage here is close to nothing. And the other side of the ball, Minnesota, who's grading out across the board. They've just been very unlucky. I mean, this team could have 8 wins. I think my power ratings, I have them around 10th or 11th. I think DVOA, they're 10th. And this team can move the ball. And where can they move the ball most efficiently? Through the air. With Cousins, who's playing at an elite level, two of the best, or maybe arguably the best receiver duo in the NFL. And that spells disaster for a Lions pass defense that's dead last in EPA per drop back. We saw when Andy Dalton came in without Robinson on Thanksgiving, he just started slinging the ball up and down the field, moving it at will. That's the Lions secondary is awful, right? And they got to play Justin Fields in a banged up Bears offense. They got to play Mason Rudolph in weather. This is now in a dome against this Vikings offense. Dalvin Cook most likely out. I think that's confirmed. Great. Now I don't need Zimmer running it on first and second down. Let Kirk cook. So I think that they're just going to lead to more passing for Cousins against this bad secondary. I think the Vikings show up here. They need a win. All they've done is played every single one of their games is one possession, which is scary, except for a win over the Seahawks. But I think they get the win here, and pretty convincingly. And remember, this was a game that closed, 10? You were on them at home.
Yeah, they closed at
9
like
10 and a half, 11. It closed, I think you bet it at 8 and a half, 9. It closed like 10 and a half or 11. And, the Lions had a much healthier receiving core. They had DeAndre Swift who played, and there's almost no home field here. And you're getting this at 7. Like, maybe if it was 7 and a half, I would pass. But at 7 here in the dome where there's almost no home field, I think the Vikings can get this done here and win a rare game by more than one possession. The Lions are bad. I don't know where they're going to get their win. I mean, like, if you look at their schedule, let's see.
Their win is they got their win. It's Pittsburgh. It was a tie. The Lions don't get wins. Ties are their wins.
Like, they're at the Broncos after this, home against the Cardinals, at the Falcons, at the Seahawks, then home against the Packers.
Falcons. Gotta be the
Falcons.
Falcons.
They could win at the Falcons, or they could win at home against the Packers in Week 17 if the Packers are sitting everyone. But the Packers are 9-3. The Cardinals would have to slip up.
Yeah.
But the Packers did beat the Cardinals. So there's a chance, Lions fans, that the Packers sit everyone Week 17 if they have the 1 seed locked up. That might be your best bet. No, now they're going to beat the Vikings, and I'm saying all this. But anyway, give me the Vikings as my third pick.
Yeah, I'll have more on this game. I also like an angle for the total here, so I won't talk too much about it. But yeah, I just don't know how the Lions are getting offense in this game. All right. For my third pick and the sixth pick of the Sunday six pack, let's get ugly again. Let's do it with the Seattle Seahawks plus 3.5 at home against San Francisco. No, Seattle has not been playing well, but should they be 3.5 more than a field goal at home here against the 49ers? I just can't bring myself to see that line, justify that line. You look at the Niners and, as is usual with them, which seems to happen every year, they're dealing with some key injuries now. They've been playing really well, but Deebo Samuel, who's been not only their best player on offense, but arguably one of the best, if not the best offensive players in the league this year, is going to be out. And then just a major loss to your defensive front with Fred Warner. He's going to miss. And Drake Greenlaw looks like he may miss as well. So just a cluster of injuries here for key players for the 49ers. And listen, I don't know what's wrong with the Seahawks. Like it's hard to put my finger on it because they're still really good on early downs on offense. And that's something that tends to be more predictive. Their issue has been third down. I think the play calling has been poor. Freddie Swain is getting way too many targets in key situations, especially at the expense of either Tyler Lockett. It's been Tyler Lockett now, DK Metcalf last game. Russell Wilson's obviously he's not on the way he was, for his entire career. I don't know if that's kind of missing time for the first time, and just kind of threw him off his rhythm. I don't know if he's like subconsciously angry that they didn't bring back Schottenheimer, who he was a fan of, or what, but he's not playing well. But still, this is divisional matchup. San Francisco's coming to their house banged up, and it's just a buy low spot for Seattle. When you look at all of the trends and all of the things, these spots, you tend to cash with the home dog here. I mean, forget Seattle and forget Shanahan, just a home dog by 1 to 14 points on a 3-game straight up losing streak. 78, 44, and 7, 64% against the spread since 2003, according to our Action Labs data. And then you look at the other side of San Francisco. They've been scoring a lot of points, 30 plus in 3 straight. Teams on a 3-game streak of scoring 30 or more points late in the season. So from week 10 on, facing a team that's not elite, so under 66% winning percentage. Those teams, fading those teams, you go 62, 40, and 61% against the spread. Then you have Shanahan is a favorite, 10, 19, and 1, as not coming off a bye against the spread. That's just 33%. You have Wilson as a dog. He's 67% at 24, 12, and 2. Carroll, 16, 3, and 4, 84% against the spread off a multi-game losing streak, including 3-1 this season. And Carroll and Wilson coming off a loss, 27, 16, and 4, 63% against the spread. So, I mean, this is just a buy low spot for Seattle. Every week it's still a struggle. I mean, Russell Wilson's final numbers didn't look as bad as they had the last 2 weeks. I do think they're going to start. I mean, they got to be playing looser here. The season's all but over, although somehow they're still like 2 games out of a wild card spot, I think it is. But I expect more no huddle. I expect more play action. I mean, it's just obvious the issues. I expect more just force the ball to Lockett and Metcalf here. And then with the Niners injuries and without Deebo, they're still going to be able to run, but Deebo's been a big part of their running game too. It just changes a lot for that offense. Seattle's still been good in the red zone on both sides. So I just think Seattle can at least hold it to a field goal here. They've come out on the right side of most of these last few in San Francisco between these two teams. So betting you get a good effort from Seattle finally in this spot, but it's a hold your nose play the way they've been playing lately. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for our week 13 Sunday 6-pack. To recap, Stuckey is going with Pittsburgh plus 4.5 against Baltimore, Denver plus 9.5, plus 10 against Kansas City, and the Minnesota Vikings -7 at Detroit. I'm going with the Giants plus 4 at Miami, the Chargers plus 3 at Cincinnati, and the Seahawks plus 3.5 hosting the 49ers. So that concludes our Week 13 Sunday 6-pack presented by Athletic Brewing Company, whose innovative process allows them to brew great tasting craft beer without the alcohol. From IPAs to stouts to golden ales and more, they offer a full selection of craft brews starting at only 50 calories. With 2 custom breweries in Connecticut and California, they've created a lineup of styles loaded with accolades, including the 2020 World Beer Award gold medal for their flagship IPA, Run Wild. With full flavor, low calories, and no chance of a hangover, Athletic Brews lets you enjoy the refreshing taste of beer anytime and anywhere. Place an order today at athleticbrewing.com and get free shipping when you order 2 or more 6-packs, and you can enjoy 10% off your order with promo code ACTION10. That's ACTION10. As a reminder, you can follow all of our picks on the award-winning Action Network app. Just search for Sunday 6-pack in the app's follow feature. You can find Stuckey on Twitter at Stuckey2, and you can find me on Twitter at Chris Raybon. You can find us at those same handles in the Action Network app, where again, you can follow all of our bets and track yours as well. Be sure to check out actionnetwork.com for all of our fantasy football and betting content. Stuck will have a breakdown of the Monday night football game. I'll have a breakdown night football game. Sean Kerner will have a breakdown of the Thursday night football game. Until next week, let's get this money.